Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It is FPC Radio Live, and it's a glorious day on FPC Radio Live, John, because, well, guess what? It is puck drop on the 2023-2024 NHL season. So very, very excited about that. And be sure to tune in later on Full Press NHL on Twitter, Facebook, and pretty much wherever we broadcast our stuff, because we're going to do a nice little preview of tonight. Those Vegas Golden Knights are going to be dropping that banner there, John. And yeah, it was. I don't know if you were watching or listening to Monday Night Football last night, but Jack Eichel was a guest and talked about Tom Brady because, well, guess what? He grew up a Patriots fan, and it was just another harsh reminder of days gone by because it was tough. At least they talked about Tom Brady on Monday Night Football, though.
Which is always good, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you can reference 2018 or 2016 or 2014, and go all the way back to 2001. And we're not referencing 2023 because right now the Patriots are arguably the worst team in football, the only team with the worst record, of course, Carolina. But the Patriots are going to invade Vegas this coming weekend to take on the Raiders, so that should be interesting. Against Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo. I almost call him Jadine Garoppolo, which he's much better looking than Jadine Garoppolo. And Jacoby Byers, yet another former Patriot who's doing quite well there.
Nonetheless, though, I was going to say, Tom Brady's not walking through the door. Yeah, he might. I don't know if his ownership stake has been. I don't think it's been finalized with the Raiders yet, but they did make reference to it, and that was kind of what spurred that conversation. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about obviously the Raiders pulled off that win last night against your Green Bay Packers. 3 interceptions by Jordan Love. They're
not my Green Bay Packers anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Okay, that's right.
When they win, they are.
Yeah, when they win. You've dropped them like woof. Man, no, I poke fun.
You at all?
Yeah, you're always a Aaron Rodgers guy, just like you're a LeBron guy. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it depends. It doesn't matter on the team. No, by the way, did you see that Wemby steal yesterday? I don't.
Oh,
that highlight.
About it. Yeah.
It was the most like alien like steal. Like imagine like Kevin Durant, but like 10 times more. Like he just it looked like he had a reach of like 20 feet, and he just reached out and swatted
the leg.
Right, my God, it was incredible. I saw it on SportsCenter, and it was pretty amazing. But anyways, back to Brady, because the and as we kind of imagine the discourse surrounding Brady and in in connection to that, Bill Belichick, it's getting pretty wild because like I'm conflicted, John, because like there's a lot of anti-Belichick stuff out there right now, which I think is greatly overstated. And I think just again, a lot of people have been chomping at the bit to get rid of to talk trash about Belichick. And like I saw one local Boston reporter talk about how the press conferences are wearing on him now. I'm like, no, look, we talked about it yesterday. Yeah, I mean, I understand some of the disdain towards those press conferences, but don't lie. His press conferences have been bugging you for 20 years. So don't sit here and pretend like all of a sudden, like, oh my God, now things are different. No, I mean, you're still playing the same role. You're just, you're all, like I said, it's all sharks in the water right now, John. That's what it is. They smell the blood. They've been sitting there feasting and leeching off of excrements the entire, 20 years, just waiting for the downfall. And quite frankly, that seems like a pretty miserable existence. I'm not going to lie. But the reality of it is there is legitimate criticism to be had for this Patriots team. Like I said, Tom Brady is not walking through that door. And your guy, Shannon Sharp, he is your guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to get confused with allegiances, whatever.
Fox Sports 1, ESPN, wherever he travels, I'm with him.
Doesn't matter. Club Shay Shay right there. President.
That's right. I want to be on his podcast.
Yes, I know. You drop me quicker than you drop the Green Bay Packers if he comes calling.
No, I would never drop you. I'm always loyal to friends.
Right.
I don't know these people that we're talking about. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Shannon Sharp. They're all kind of characters, but no, my friends, I am as loyal as can be.
Of course. That's the paisan in you. So
that's true.
But anyway, so I don't even know where was I even going with this.
We're talking about Shannon Sharp.
Right. Oh, right. So Shannon Sharp, of course, gets on TV yesterday or whatever and says, "Well, maybe I was a little off about Tom Brady." And I'm like, it's like, I appreciate that. Don't get me wrong, because he has been. I mean, again, I understand he's playing a role, and he was playing a role in FS1. How can you be pro Tom Brady when on the other side of the table it's Skip Bayless? So, he gets on TV and he goes on and on about how he was wrong. And I'm like, look, I agree in essence with what he's saying, but not for the reasons in which he's saying it. He's saying it obviously to kind of do this pile on job on Bill Belichick. And I get it. The media is wrapping around. But look, I've always felt, and I'll repeat it every single time because I know not everyone can understand or comprehend texts or tweets, or they pick apart like little things. So the point is, I, in general, believe that an elite quarterback, John, is always going to be more important than a coach and more impactful. Why? Mm-hmm. Because they're on the football field. They're the ones that are actually making the decisions, and they are the catalyst for everything else that happens, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And in a lot of cases, also on the defensive side of the ball, because of, just how the game of football works. So that's what I believe. So yes, of course, when Tom Brady left the Patriots, guess what, John? I didn't expect. I don't think this is far off from my expectations. I thought they were a good team with some talent,
they're a 500 team essentially, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
30 since Brady left, so that's pretty much
that's normal. That's normal in the NFL when you don't have an elite quarterback.
The NFL Patriot fan. Exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome to the NFL Patriot fans. This is the way 2/3 of the team exists, right? I mean, there's a few teams that are consistently contending, like Pittsburgh and Baltimore, well-run organizations. They're always kind of
Pittsburgh's but Pittsburgh has hovered around 500 for years. So that's the thing too.
But that's my point, though. Usually they don't think below that. And they've made the playoffs, probably half the time the last 15, 20 years.
Which again, I mean,
is good. That's pretty good.
Right.
Green Bay was like this for a while, but Green Bay also had the quarterback.
Right.
That's the tie-in with Green Bay, because I've mentioned a million times, from Lombardi to Favre, the Packers were the worst team in football.
Yeah.
From 1968 to 1992. 25 years, the worst team in football. They were contending for 30 years, and now we'll see what they are. But can I just throw this out about Bill Belichick?
Sure.
And people could talk about his press conferences and everything else. Maybe he's kind of just lost it a little bit as a coach, because we see this with players as they get older. They're not as effective as they used to be. The guy's 71. Maybe he's lost a little bit of his fastball. I mean, that does happen, right? We saw Tom Landry, Don Shula, Joe Gibbs. Remember when he came back to Washington the second time? That team was god-awful. Maybe he's just not the same as he was 5 years ago. Yes, he doesn't have Tom Brady, but maybe he's not the same coach he was 5 years ago. He's 71 years old. You lose a little bit as you get older. I can attest to that. I'm only 60.
And you've lost a lot.
I've lost a lot.
No, that wasn't fair. That was
0-0 though. I'm 0-0.
Yeah.
I have as many Super Bowl wins as him without Tom.
Yeah, you have a better winning percentage without Tom Brady than he does. Actually, well, technically, you don't have a winning percentage. So that,
I don't
hold me to that comment. That was
a lot of slow pitch softball championships. That was my calling Friday.
Hey, I'm pretty sure if you put a side by side of you and Barry Bonds next to each other, you could definitely tell the difference. Anyways,
but my point being, maybe the guy isn't what he was. I mean, which is normal for any human being. He is a human being, I guess, right? So,
oh, sure. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's certainly legitimate criticism, and that's the thing. And the problem, though, John, is there's no middle ground when it comes to fans and the media and covering this team, because it's either one or the other. It's either you're anti-Belichick or it's a mess. So, like I said, I mean, yes, both. Very clearly, both obviously him and Brady were responsible for the success of this dynasty. No doubt about it. They were the two biggest factors because, well, the quarterback and the head coach. And, are each of them. See, that's the thing. People constantly say, or have been. I mean, again, the tide seems to be shifting, except for there was a few stray shots at Brady yesterday from some usual suspects. Bomani Jones, I mean, still... the guy comes out, says some really terribly wrong things. Let me rephrase that. Not that made it sound like they were like he was saying bad things. No, he was just saying things that were wrong. disingenuous argument against Tom Brady, gets called out, and he doubled it with like. Here's the thing, John. For 20 years,
his argument about against Tom Brady, I'm trying to figure out.
Well, he people still talk about this narrative how like, oh, well, Brady wasn't really great until 2007, and that's just dumb. I mean, that is one of the worst examples of revisionist history I've ever seen in my life. And here's the thing, John, for at least the very existence of Twitter since 2009 and social media, a lot of us Brady honks, as we are referred to, and like I said, that is the very PG version of a lot of the names that we were called. We've been living this like denial from people for years. So how do you think you're going to come out with a point like that and not get absolutely shredded? And then that's what happened in the comments, because it's not just about one opinion versus the other. It's one opinion that is patently false versus a bunch of evidence to the contrary, and that's what happened. So there's still some stragglers out there that think like, oh, well, he wasn't really anything until this, and then someone's like, well, he didn't even throw 30 touchdowns until 2007 when he had Moss and Gronk, and I'm like, well, you know what? You know how many players threw for 30 touchdowns between 2001 and 2006, John?
Peyton Manning, and I can't think of too many. Oh, well, Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner and Peyton Manning were probably the two that come to mind. Right, yeah.
10
common thing.
Right, 10 players combined, not like 10 different players. No, combined. And 4 of those came in 2004. So it's like no one was throwing for 30 touchdowns. So what kind of criticism is that? It's again, it's a sign of just not really understanding what you're necessarily talking about. But anyways, it's silly that again the media, certain media members are obviously chomping at the bit. They've had grudges against Belichick since, well, some of them day one. Others have had it built up over time. But the point is, is there criticism that deserves to be dished out? Absolutely. Is this season kind of taking a turn for the worst? Yeah, I mean, let's not completely rewrite and say that the last couple of years have obviously been a struggle, and there have been mistakes along the way, the Matt Patricia hiring, but again, John,
the offense was better with him
it's really not
O'Brien.
Like we can maybe put that on the back burner for now when it comes to go-to criticism, because who knows what that's going to work out. But for the most part, John, they had a reasonable few years after. And again, this is my mentality going into it. You're losing the greatest quarterback of all time, who at the time that he left, I thought was still the best quarterback in the league. And I think the couple of years following kind of confirmed that. You're going to take a huge step back. There's no doubt about it. So don't sit here and pretend like, you're even going to have that sort of continued success. And, for the first few years, you could kind of live with what was going on because, you understand that it's going to take some time. But this year is obviously the first month plus has been a nothing short of a disaster. And look, I mean, that has opened the door for, again, like I said, I think criticism is warranted, but I think a lot of it's going a little bit over the top, and it's all narrative based too. I mean, this is all people being dramatic, and again, having past grudges or current grudges, lifelong grudges, really come to a forefront. Because, like I said before, it's a bunch of sharks in the water just chomping at the bit. With all the blood in the water. That's what they're here for, John, and you could see it coming from a mile away.
Well, he kind of deserves a lot of it the way he treated people for 20 years. I mean, if you're going to be an a-hole to people,
well, I said it
on the way up,
but
on the way
here's
down, they're going to.
But here's the thing, John. It's not one-sided on his behalf, because the way he was treated was also is deserving of criticism, because in this situation, and this seems like the media is giving a pass. Like, no, I've said very many times that I think for the most part, the media in Boston that covers the Patriots locally is garbage. I think it's not just lazy, but it's a lot of just people that don't really know what they're doing, or guys that have been around so long and they've just kind of devolved into this just shtick that they just can't get away. Tomato cans, how many times have we heard about tomato cans since the beginning of 2000, how it's like, oh, they're not really that good. Oh, Belichick's a cheater, and like, what, Ron Borges, they hate his coach, all these things. Like, this has been happening for 15, 20 years. So of course, Belichick's not going to sit there and go, smiling like a jackass in front of these people, So again, there's plenty of blame to go around here, John. So I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to agree. Let's put it this way. I'm not going to agree that it's because Bill Belichick was a jerk. I mean, he was a jerk for a reason.
I think he was a jerk in Cleveland as well before he had done anything. Like, he showed up being a jerk. I just, whatever. We're not going to probably agree on anything when it comes to him. I think he did have a big part of what success the team had, more Brady than Belichick, but especially at the beginning where it was a different type of league. But people that are not giving Brady credit till 2007, did they watch the Super Bowls the guys played in? Like, did they watch him carry a group of wide receivers named Mo, Larry, and Curly to the AFC Championship game in 2006 and nearly pull off an upset at Indianapolis? Did they see him score 18 points in the fourth quarter against Carolina in Super Bowl 38? I mean, like, I don't know.
No, I don't think they did, or they just don't care.
Just lose their minds? Yeah.
Well, like
that's just silly.
One of the arguments that I saw yesterday, and this is always kind of just puzzled me, was ESPN's own Mina Kimes, superstar.
You're a good friend.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Made the point that, like, well, Belichick's defense carried him to the 2001 and 2018 Super Bowl because, well, they won 13-3, and that comment drives me crazy because it's like, well, they needed 78 points in the 2 games leading up to it. So by that logic, then the offense carried the 2003 Super Bowl, because like the 2003 season was the only year where the defense was significantly outranked the offense. That's the only year in Tom Brady's career where that was the case. But yet, look at the Super Bowl and how that turned out. It was a record-setting performance by Tom Brady. So again, it's silly, lazy analytics that really it's just narrative-based, John, and you still see it to this day. And it's like, I was actually kind of happy, to be honest, because I've missed that discourse a little bit. Brady's not playing anymore. The Patriots suck. I've missed it a little bit this year.
Well, they got your back. That's for
sure. Well,
the other thing too. The other thing too is about I just wanted to bring this up before I forget. When you get to 60, you forget things. The Brady ownership in Vegas. The rumor was that he was getting a 70% discount. I mean, that's going to infuriate other owners, right? Like, including limited partners of, I don't know, the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, the way I'm looking at it is that franchise is valued at $4 billion. I'm just going to throw that number out there. And he's buying 2% of the team. That's $80 million. Well, if you give a 70% discount, he's getting 2% of the team for $24 million.
But
I know there's a lot that he has to offer. I get that. But look, what if I own 1% of the team and just paid $40 million for it? This guy's getting 2% for $24 million. Yeah, I'd be pretty upset.
Well, but if you're one of those limited partners and you see an opportunity to have not just a football player, but the greatest quarterback of all time be indirectly a face of your franchise, that's worth it.
Winning, right? Because the Las Vegas.
Oh, of course. I
mean, nothing in the WNBA finals. Yeah,
they're up.
Once it's official, they'll go on a 7-game winning.
Yeah, they're up 1-0 right now already. The Aces.
They're going to win that championship.
Yeah, obviously.
Once he signs the paperwork to become officially a limited partner of the Raiders, they'll go on a 7-game winning streak.
Look, they have an opportunity right now over the course of the next 5 games to win some games. Like, they were showing the list, and I'm like, again, this is another harsh reminder that it's a far cry from what those successful days for the Patriots, but they were among the, wow, that could be a nice, easy win to build off of. But no, I think they play one team over 500 over the next 5 weeks, so they certainly have an opportunity. So if Tom Brady's looking to make a huge impact, just sign right now and watch them keep winning football games, and Jimmy Garoppolo stop making dumb interceptions.
All he does is win, though, Jimmy G, right?
Yeah.
Although I think that one-loss record for Jimmy G is a little bit misleading. Like we see with Brock Purdy, who is essentially doing the same weapons. Although, look, Garoppolo never had Christian McCaffrey, might be the MVP of the league for all we know. But look at what Brock Purdy's doing with a lot of the same weapons. Like they're not even in games San Francisco. They're like just blowing everyone out. That's why when people say, "Oh yeah, Mac Jones could do in San Francisco what Brock Purdy does," like no, I like give this kid some credit for what he is doing.
Right.
You know, they've never scored fewer than 30 points in any game he started and finished. He got hurt in the NFC Championship game, so give him a little bit of that credit.
Like, do I think the point being made? Do I think Mac Jones is better? Certainly better than what he looked like yesterday or this past weekend. Absolutely, I think he's.
I hope so. Yeah.
Look. I don't. It's. I don't know exactly. I'm not going to sit here because like very quickly we forget that at least for the first few weeks of the season, Mac Jones was probably the least of their problems. They had a lot of other issues, and he played pretty well. He's still making a mistake here and there. This past week was last couple weeks have been bad. I mean, there's no getting around that. But kind of like what we see, I mean, these 2 weeks could turn into a distant memory a month and a half from now. So, I'm hoping the ferocity is tempered a little bit, after a couple days, and we kind of look back and see what's going to happen. So, but it will be interesting. Anyways, we before we go though, it's Tuesday, so in the past we used to give our power ranking. So I figure we could, maybe start that up again. It should be interesting. It should be, give us a chance to kind of. See how the landscape of the NFL is shaking out right now. So you think you're prepared to do this, John? You're prepared? You're ready to go?
Prepared.
Always prepared?
I'm always prepared.
Right.
At least I think I am.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just jump right into it. Number 5 for me, the Miami Dolphins. The offense is close to unmatched when it's on fire, although they just it looks like they lost A-Chain for their running back for a few weeks, naturally, because I have them on my fantasy football team. But they've been running on all cylinders, obviously, offensively. Defensively is a different story, but you're going to be hard-pressed to find too many teams right now that look better than Miami. So give me Miami, number 5 team for me.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's got Tua and the United States 4x110-meter relay team there. I mean, it's the fastest team I've ever seen. And the running back you're talking about, is he the fastest running back we've ever seen? Because usually
he's
running back
fast.
that fast, they just put up the wide receiver. Like that, he just breaks through a whole count for 2 and it's a touchdown. I mean, he's just going to outrace everybody. Number 5 for me is the Detroit Lions. They slipped up against Seattle back in week 2, but look, they won at Kansas City. They manhandled Carolina this week. That's no great shakes. But, they also went into Lambeau and manhandled the Packers, which that doesn't look as impressive as we watched the Packers last night implode. But I have Detroit at number 5. They are for real. They're going to win that division. I don't know if they'll be the number 1 seed to San Francisco, so darn good. But the Lions are going to be a factor the remainder of this season without question.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. In fact, I have them as my number 4 team after these first 5 weeks. 4-1. Again, offense looks great. Jared Goff looks fantastic. Again, I mean, this team looks like it might cruise to the NFC North title. Let's be honest. I mean, at this point, I think the reality of the Packers is I don't think they're too different than what the Patriots are. And that can change over time because you got to get, but they're young and we're seeing the same kind of sloppiness, stuff that we're not used to seeing if you're a Packers fan. Just like Patriots are not used to seeing. I mean, how many times has Aaron Rodgers thrown 3 interceptions in a game?
Not very often. Yeah.
So
common denominator. They're right. The 2 great quarterbacks that aren't there anymore. All of a sudden, those guys covered up a lot of holes.
No, and that's but that's the thing. That's what makes those players great, and kind of further emphasizes why their impact on a game is so important, and hence why quarterback win stats are legitimate. So always got to throw that in there. So number 4 for me, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, you might see the future head coach of the New England Patriots along the sideline or in the booth for the Detroit Lions. Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator who revitalized Jared Goff's career, has done a fantastic job. He's a young,
like Garoppolo.
Innovative guy.
Jared Garoppolo.
I can't get him out of my mind. I just can't get Jimmy G out of my mind.
I'm just thinking of a thought bubble over your head, just, running off the field after 60 hard minutes and his hair still perfectly in place.
It is. I mean, he's the man. Number 4 for me is the the Miami Dolphins. Look, I still can't get out of my head their performance in Buffalo, where they lost 48-20.
Yeah.
They're a speed team. They're probably the most exciting team to watch in football right now. But how far can they go with a defense that is somewhat leaky? Maybe when Jalen Ramsey comes back in December, if he comes back, the defense will be better. But I have them at number 4 right now. That's some nice wins. But that loss to Buffalo is still kind of in the back of my mind saying, are they really legitimate contenders? The problem is the AFC is just not that good this year. The NFC has actually been better.
Yeah.
But I do have Miami at number 4.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. We talked all off season about hyping the AFC,
Mhm.
but look, I think it's the bigger thing where I think this isn't to say that we don't have good quarterbacks in this league. I just don't. I think this is across the board maybe the lowest we've had in a while, and there's reasons for that because again, for 15 years, you had arguably 3-4 of the top 10 quarterbacks legitimately, not like in prisoner of the moment type discussion, but like legitimately with Brady, Manning, Rodgers, and Breeze. I mean, I don't agree that Breeze is a top 10 quarterback, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he's not far off, and that the fact that there's not a quarterback in this game right now short of Patrick Mahomes that I'd consider better than Drew Brees, and he was the 4th best quarterback of that run. So right then and there, you may say, oh, you're just more. It's all top heavy. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, like you don't have the. I just don't believe you have the broad excellence at the quarterback position. You have some pretty good ones. You have some really good ones. But it's. Yeah, to me, it's just I just don't. I think that's just the state of the league, and look across the league. I mean, that's kind of what we're getting. I think I'm not going to call it easier, John, but you open up the offenses, and I think there's it's harder to evaluate some of these guys because I think we get so quick to judge, like, oh, this guy's great, this guy's this guy's that, and it's like, no, he had a really good season. To be great, you need to do it year after year after year. That's great, not just one great season. So. So I think in general, I think quarterback play is down. I mean, that could get better. I mean, some of these young guys can really come together. Obviously, Joe Burrow being banged up doesn't help. So we'll see what happens and how it all plays out. But number 3 for me, my number 3 team is the Chiefs at 4-1 in the AFC. I mean, I'm not quite sure exactly how good this team is. You know what I mean? Like I'm still kind of hesitant, and I think out of respect for them being the Super Bowl defending champions, I put them here at number 3. But they certainly have some things to work out themselves. Certainly offensively, they looked a lot better, obviously, this week than they had certainly the previous few weeks. But it'll be interesting to see, when it comes to playing the better teams in the league, how they do, because I don't really hold Minnesota in a high regard. I think they can be competitive, but I think it's deceiving. You know what I mean? I don't think they're necessarily a great team. They're a good question mark team, and even that I think is a stretch right now. So certainly with Justin Jefferson now going on, looking like he's going on injured reserve, I would maybe write them off completely at this point. So, but yeah, number 3 for me, the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm right there with you with Kansas City. I wouldn't say by default. It's just that the top 2 teams that we're probably going to agree on right now look like they've kind of clearly separated from everyone else. And again, it's still early in the season, but right now, Kansas City, number 3, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I imagine we're probably going to have the same top 2 teams. Number 2 for me, the Eagles. Still are not really, and this is the scary thing. This is the thing you used to say about the Patriots all the time. Like, they'd always get off to these slow starts, but they'd still be 3-4-1, 4-0, and you're sitting there saying like, oh well, they haven't really looked good. Was that really a good win? Well, guess what? You don't get extra points for looking better. You know what I mean? As long as you win, you win. And I think for Philadelphia, this is a team that is, a lot of teams don't necessarily recover, certainly after a Super Bowl loss. And they lost a lot of talent, John. Let's be honest. So it's going to take some time for them to figure things out. Well, in the meantime, they've only gone 5-0. And you can sit here and talk about who they've played and all that and say, yeah, you know what? Obviously, if they're playing, Kansas City, the 49ers, Buffalo, and in 5 straight weeks, it's going to be harder. But what they've done is go 5-0 with the schedule they're given. So I'm looking at Philadelphia and I'm saying, how am I supposed to make an argument against them right now? And certainly, I mean, look, the NFC East, I think Dallas's stock has, this might be a corny joke, but it's dropped quicker than Enron. Like, I mean, come on, let's be real with Dallas. Like they were so high after that Patriots win. And again, this is kind of the theme of the show. Just another reminder how far the Patriots have fallen. That looks like a fraudulent win because they go out the very next week and get blown out almost as bad by a team that is actually really good. So to me, I'm not looking at Dallas. I'm looking at the Eagles and everyone else in that division because, well, everyone else in that division I don't think is even going to come close. So number 2 for me, the Eagles.
Yeah, the thing about the Eagles, look, Jalen Hurts has won 22 of his last 23 starts. That's damn impressive. That's in the regular season. He did, of course, in the Super Bowl and played great in the Super Bowl, pretty much. But also the fact that week in and week out, they dominate the line of scrimmage. And I know we talk about the great receivers and the great quarterbacks and all this stuff, and it's fun to watch, and it's very important, and they pay these people extreme high amounts of money. But oftentimes the game is still won at the line of scrimmage, and they win those battles every week. Their offensive line is one of the top 3 in the league. Their defensive line is one of the top 3 in the league. So they're going to be there every week. You're not getting rid of them. And when they lose, they're going to lose a close game. So they're going to be battling you all the way. I have them at number 2 as well.
All right, and drum roll, please. Surprise, surprise. The 49ers, number 1. I mean, again, it's just, this is a no-brainer. If you do not have them at the top of your power rankings list, I know it's opinion based, but if you don't, you're just seeking attention. Because I mean, the reality of it is they're great on defense, they're great on special teams, and they're great on offense. And all this, and again, I'm seeing it. This was kind of one of the things I think that entered. I think this is what spurred that Tom Brady discussion from people yesterday about the system and all that, because it started with talking about Brock Purdy. And I'm sitting here saying, like, do not do the same thing that you did to Tom Brady for Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy. Like, I was skeptical coming into the season just because, like, okay, 7 games, you're coming off an injury. How are teams going to react when they have a lot of good film on you? Well, he just goes and wins 5 more games. So, you know what I mean? Like, what am I to doubt at this point? He needs to give me a reason to doubt him at this point. I'm not going to project my doubts. So, it's silly to sit here and say, oh, well, like you said, you brought up Mac Jones. I obviously I think, the situation for Brock Purdy is certainly better than what Mac Jones is. I mean, hell, you can make an argument that there's no better offensive situation, but you still have to execute, Sean. Mm-hmm. Like when people just say, like you still have to make those decisions. It's like, that's why I can sit here and say, yeah, of course, Patrick Mahomes has had a lot of help around him, but he still has to execute. Now, if you're going to get into a discussion, see, this is where it gets off the rails. When it's Brady versus Mahomes, that's when things get a little funky because you're comparing him off of Tom Brady, who has done it with literally every sort of offensive situation, essentially. So that again leads to horrible sports discourse, and that's where we get down these rabbit holes of just nothing, where we're just going back and forth at each other. But the reality of it is, yes, your situation can help you, but at the end of the day, the quarterback still has to execute, and his situation isn't making Brock Purdy as accurate as he has been. I mean, that's one of the most impressive things about it is accuracy. And people they're doing it unironically, but it turns out to be quite ironic, are sitting there saying like, well, he doesn't have the arm strength, but he's making the throws. It's like, wow, oh my God. It's almost like playing quarterback isn't about how hard you can throw. Mm-hmm. It's about where you can throw and how you can locate the ball. And I think, unfortunately, I don't think anyone ever learned any lessons from Tom Brady. Because it looks like we're heading down the path if Brock Purdy continues to have his success like he's having, that we're going to hear the same things about him that we heard about Brady. Oh, he's a system quarterback. This, any dinks and dunks. It's like, no, stop it. Stop it. Don't act foolish. Don't do this again. For the love of God, please don't do this again. I'm begging you, John.
I won't, because when you have 34, 35 points per game for 11 straight games, give the quarterback a lot of credit for that. I mean, you can look
John
Garoppolo was in the same system. He wasn't as good as
Tom Brady as recently as 2020 was accused of being carried by his defense, despite averaging over 30 points a game in 4 playoff games. So I have no faith in how Brock Purdy is going to be covered from here on out. Again, the more success he has, the more ridiculous that I think the commentary is going to be.
I actually know someone who was his quarterback coach when he was very, very young, and I talked to him, and occasionally I'll appear on his radio show in Phoenix, and he talks about all the intangibles that he has, but he says he's also got good physical skills. Like, you can't get to the NFL without physical skills. You can have the greatest intangibles ever, but you still have to have good physical skills. And the thing about Brock Purdy, I watched a lot of Iowa State football for about 3 years. I don't know why. I just picked a team that I was going to follow, and I wasn't going to be Ohio State or whatever. And I saw this kid play with not much around him. He beat Oklahoma, which was a national championship contender one year.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'm like, this kid's got something. Like, I didn't perceive that this is what he was going to become. But we see this a lot in the NFL. Like, Joe Montana was a 3rd-round pick. Johnny Unitas was drafted well later than Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. I know you're not a big Russell Wilson fan, but he was drafted in what, the 3rd round?
Let's not bring him into the conversation here.
No, but my point being, you can find good quarterbacks beyond the 1st round.
Of course. I mean, because again, quarterback play is so much more complicated than just throw hard, run fast. That's like the most superficial.
Like Schwarzenegger there.
Yeah, I know, right? You like that?
Run.
I should have done it in his accent next time. But and I brought this up actually a few weeks ago or months. I don't know. The time all kind of mashes together. But it's the draft status. I mean, Brady was untalented. He doesn't have any talent. He's inferior in talent because he was a 199th overall pick. That's basically the mentality. And again, the same thing's being used for Brock Purdy, because if Brock Purdy was the number 1 overall pick, and I think someone made this argument, then this wouldn't be the discourse around it. You'd be celebrating how great of things. I mean, think about it, John. If Patrick Mahomes was in Brock Purdy's position right now, what do you think would be happening? They'd be building a statue outside of NFL headquarters in New York already. You know what I mean?
He might be averaging 45 points per game, but yeah, exactly. But yeah,
I don't know. I don't know, John. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe he'd just be doing exactly what Brock Purdy's doing,
which is pretty good. Yeah,
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's all about draft status and kind of that kind of can dictate how people cover you, because now again, you're seeing the same early on. You're seeing some of the same, keywords being thrown out, system and the talent around him, and he doesn't have the arm strength. Like, who the hell cares about arm strength? And first of all, Tom Brady has a lot of arm strength, by the way. So
he sure does.
Yeah.
And look, he played in the Northeast for 20 years with wind and rain and snow. And how did he play in that inclement weather? I make a case that Brady and Rodgers, among other things, are the 2 best bad weather quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Yeah,
they excelled because they had to. They played in freaking Foxborough and Green Bay. I hope they could play well in bad weather because they certainly faced it enough. But yeah, no, it's a silly conversation, and he's good. And again, I followed him in college, and I didn't expect him to become, maybe the MVP of the league. Can I end it with this?
Sure.
Can maybe a tease for tomorrow if we have this discussion? Can an offensive lineman be league MVP?
No.
Okay. I knew you'd say no.
No, and it's not just dismissing it no, of course not. But again, I understand that the griping when it comes to, well, it's a quarterback favored award, and it's like there's reasons for that. And as much as the offensive line, what would your case be? Or did you have someone in mind, like
Trent Williams? Yeah, from the 49ers. Because I think, look, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, the whole thing is just loaded. Like, how comforting must it be to have a left tackle like that? You're never going to get hit from the blind side. And then when you need 5 yards, you put McCaffrey behind Trent Williams. And again, a lot of that has to do with McCaffrey. Just something. There was one year when I thought that Jalen's the big tackle from Dallas.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
Tyron Smith. I thought he could have been just maybe top 5, just to throw someone else in there that, people might look at, again, maybe for clicks. They say, well, this guy's out of his mind. He's picking an offensive lineman. I think an offensive lineman could be the best player well, not anymore. It's the quarterback. I get it. But there was probably a time where like Anthony Munoz or John Hanna was considered the best player in the league. Best pure player. Not, but now it is quarterback. I mean, it's by definition. But I just think it's an interesting thought that guy needs so much to that offense that, he makes everything else work. He's like the cement that makes all the bricks stick together.
Yeah, and yeah, I am not arguing against his value and how great he is. I just don't think it's possible for that to happen. Yeah. It's just because, like, if you think about it, John, if an offensive lineman is great enough to be in the discussion for the MVP, then you're probably talking about that team's quarterback and or running back as well. Because, well, how is he going to get national recognition? Well, these offensive players would have had to have some great games and then bring him into the forefront. So unfortunately, the more he succeeds is probably a better case for his teammates than him, which
you know what's really cool now, Ian, is that now they vote for 5. You vote 1 through 5. So maybe you'll see some off the wall picks in there, like,
won't be Russell Wilson.
No, they could have 10 picks and he's never going to get an MVP vote, right?
That's a shame, That's a shame. He's like,
man, you hate him.
Well, he's like the guy who in the 70s just turned 18 and then they changed the drinking law to 21 and you're like, what the hell? Exactly. I've waited so long. They finally opened up more MVP votes, and I am far from that player now.
Terrible.
Yeah. So, anyways, we'll end it on that, and we will say goodbye for now. We will be back tomorrow. We will kind of wrap up more of the week and kind of start looking forward to week 6. So, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.